And one. Well, hey, Dave Melinda here, Positive Polarity Podcast. I hope things are going awesome for you this week. I got a great word for you, a single word that we're going to unpack, and we're going to look at it from a kind of a different perspective today. So I think you'll enjoy this week's show. And the word is impact. And the question really is, what kind of impact are you having? Now, maybe it's in three parts. What kind of impact are you having in your business? What kind of impact are you having in your industry? And then, like a broader perspective, is what kind of impact are you having in the world? And I don't know if you're like me, but it's super easy to just get caught up in my day to day and not think globally like that. So I found somebody that really wants to help us through with a unique way. So I'm honored to be hanging out with Steve Lowell. How are you today, my friend?
I'm doing great, brother. It's so great to be here. Thanks for asking.
Absolutely. So you are a multi-award winner. You're an international speaker. So fill us in on what it's like to be all those things right there.
Well, it can be a little hectic, I got to tell you. But
Yep.
David, it's great. You're talking about impact, and this is one of the things that drives most people like me and you who are in business. A lot of us speak. A lot of us have podcasts. We write books. Part of that is having an impact because we have something to say. We have something to offer, and of course, we also want to make a little bit of money while we do that. That's okay too. But the best part about it, I think, is the whole impact thing. And I love that you're doing this show, focusing it on impact because it's such a big part of what we do.
It's awesome. And yeah, we want to unpack that today. But again, when I think about impact and I think about like a brand, not like the brand, but almost like a brand mark, like
Mm.
you're leaving your mark somewhere. So I don't know if you've ever thought of that, Steve, on your end, but when somebody says impact to you, what do you think of? What words come to your mind? What concepts do you think of in that impact side?
Yeah, I think of it in terms of transformation. In my business, what's a lot of what's driven me is being able to transform somebody's life in a very specific way. And for me, it's always about helping them bring their message or their passion to the world through the spoken word. And so for me, it's really about transformation.
So, and I love that piece because it's much broader than I'm thinking like a single incident where you stamp your, like you do an event, a speaking event, you go do it, and then you kind of move about your day. We
Mhm.
don't have a lot of people on around the world listening right now that are speakers. But I think what's really unique about this and what I wanted to unpack today was I think this is like such a hidden missed opportunity. Whether you become an authority in your field,
Mhm.
I feel like when you write a book, when you start to speak, and again, it doesn't mean you have to quit your business. There's a variety of reasons why people speak. So could you kind of start there for somebody maybe that's never spoken before? They have a desire, maybe they want that impact, but they're not sure. How do you start? Where's a great place to start?
Yeah, so I'll take you back to when I first started training speakers. I found out very young that I have a gift. I mean, I've been on the live stage since the age of 6, so I've been on stage my entire life, and I'm a good speaker. But my real gift has always been taking people who have something to say, putting them in front of an audience, and then pulling magic out of them that they never knew existed. And when I first started training people to speak. They were not speakers, they were not professional speakers. But what I found is everybody has a story to tell. And
Okay.
because everybody's got experience, everybody's got this wisdom, and so many stories will never be shared with this world because people often don't have the skill that they need, the confidence that they need, the courage they need, the words that they need to get in front of an audience and share that story. And nowadays, life has really changed since back then because now we have this virtual form that we can use, and we have live stages, and we have social media. It's so much easier now to get in front of an audience and share the message or the story. So this
Sure.
is one reason why people are driven to speak is because, hey, they're realizing I got something to say. Maybe it's a big story that has set the trajectory of their life. I call that a mess. They've come
Mhm.
through something, they've survived something, and they have this these wisdom now that they want to share with people. Some
Sure.
people have a gift that they want to share. I've been given a gift, and I want people to benefit from my gift. Or some people just have a moment in time where they recognize something about themselves, a passion, they've got a cause, they got something that they want to pursue. There's a movement that they want to create. So people have all different reasons for wanting to speak. And so for my business, years ago, it was really about that, helping people bring a message to the world so they could have whatever impact they were driven to have. And we still
Sure.
do that work. I still get a lot of those clients, but that's changed a little bit now into the business world for entrepreneurs, coaches, speakers, authors, consultants who want to use speaking to grow their business. And sort of that's where we focus now. So, there's a lot of reasons why people would want to get in front of an audience and speak. It's just that so many of them, they just haven't got, they don't think they have the fortitude or the courage or the confidence or the words or the skill.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so that it kind of all starts with the story.
Wow, that's fantastic. So, total sidebar, what did you do at 6 years old on the stage?
So when I was very young, I was a guitar player, a little guitar, not a prodigy, but I was a good little guitar player. And then I was very, very itty bitty little guy. I had really big, thick glasses, and I could barely get my hands over the guitar. And I think I was about 5 or 4 or 5 or something, and I was just learning to play. And somebody saw me play at a family event, and they put me on this little TV show, and I kind of liked the camera. And then as
Nice.
school, yeah, when I was in elementary school, they did a variety show. So I started playing, and by the time I was, I think 10 years old, I had a band. By the time I was in my early teens, I was touring the country. Like I was doing all of, now I wasn't the singer. I was just the guitar player and the front man. So I was always on stage, engaging people, speaking with people, showing off and doing all those things we do in front of an
Sure.
audience. And then sometimes people ask me, how did you get into the speaking business? And so here's my story about that is over the years, as I was on the road with the band ultimately fell apart and I started doing a solo show. It's just me and the guitar, and I learned how to sing a little bit. And, people would come and hear me sing in the bars and the pubs, and they would come and they'd say, Steve, maybe you should just say the words. And so, yeah, so I made the
Oh, no.
decision to become a speaker. And that's when I found my real gift. And that was
Sure.
helping people become really great speakers.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, and you brought that up like two or three times, and I kind of want to circle in on that word gift because I don't know about you, but in my travels, Steve, it's hard to find people that think they're good at something or
Mm,
that they can verbalize it. Like you said, I have a gift to speak. It's hard for the average entrepreneur listening if you said, fill in the blank, I'm good at,
mhm.
right? I feel like it's hard because we're always so driven, we're so busy, we don't take time to appreciate that gift. So, and some people probably think it's ego, right? Where it's like, oh
Mm.
my gosh, that guy's awful egotistical. He says he's good at something, he's got a gift. How early? I mean, so you knew you had this guitar gift, and then you tried the singing gift. I mean, was it hard? Is a gift for you hard to develop, or is it just kind of come naturally, or how did that happen for you?
Right. Well, it turns out that if the guitar playing was really a gift, I'd still be doing it and making a living at it. If the singing was really a gift, I'd still be doing it and making a living at it. Um,
Sure.
but for me, and this is what happens a lot with people that I meet, is sometimes we have this moment, a moment in time. I had a moment in time. So it was this when I was, I guess, in my early 20s, 20 maybe 21. I started working for the Dale Carnegie organization because I was stepping into the speaking world and I wanted to learn how to do it professionally. So I went to the Dale Carnegie organization, and I would go to all of the classes, and I would operate as what's called a graduate assistant. So I would sit at the back of the room and I'd watch these instructors instructing. And in my head, I'm instructing with them. And I'm kind of thinking, oh, I wouldn't have done it that way, or that was good. I liked that we did that. And then
Sure.
one day, the instructor came to me and he said, would you like to try coaching somebody? And I said, yes, I would. So I get in front of the class. And the guy that they had me coach was the toughest student in the whole class. He was this big, scary dude. He didn't want to be there. He was there because his boss sent him there to learn some
Oh boy.
personality or something. He was negative. He was angry. He was resistant. And this is the guy I get to coach. So I start coaching him into speaking. And within about a minute, I had this guy opened up like Tony Robbins on steroids, and he just started pouring out, and it was like, wow, what a transformation. And he never went back. And that was my moment where I thought, I'm good at this. I can do
Yeah.
this.
Wow.
So I trained with Carnegie for a number of years. I got certified as an instructor with them. But then when it came time for me to sign the contract to be an instructor, I couldn't sign the contract for a number of reasons, one of which was I didn't actually believe in a lot of the things that they were teaching. So I just left and started doing it on my own. So for a lot of people that I speak to, I ask
Yeah.
them about, is there a moment when you realized what your gift is or what your passion is? And usually it's like one thing. It's not something you're good at. It's something that comes from your soul. It's something that is part of you. It's not part of what you do. It's part of who you are. And not
Sure.
everybody finds that gift, but the
Yeah.
ones who do, they know it when they've got it.
Wow, that's great. So for somebody listening, is there a simple kind of exercise or thought process if somebody wants to understand that more about themselves? I mean, how for you, whether it just came that way, you practiced, you had to sit and wait for it. For somebody listening that's like, yeah, you know what, Steve, I don't feel like I'm good at anything.
Mhm.
Nothing's popping out in my mind. Nothing is like rising to the top. Where does that person go then if they're struggling with that piece?
Yeah, I think they go inside. And I think you talked about this on one of your podcasts, I think, or on your website. I saw something about the mindset piece. And it was when we acknowledge outwardly that we're not good at anything, then we're not going to be able to see it, even if it
Yeah,
presents itself. And so I believe what we need to do is we need to change our belief systems, change our mindset, right? And we need to approach life open and searching for opportunities, searching for things to reveal themselves. Because if we don't do that, you know as well as I do, things are going to reveal themselves whether we believe in it or not. And if
yeah,
we don't believe, if we're not open, if we're not searching, then we're not going to see it. We're just going to be blinded by our own negative and limiting beliefs. So, people ask me this question, many times is, where do I go to learn my gift? You go inside to learn
yeah.
your gift. And you start adjusting the mindset and being open to what's being delivered to you and what's being shown to you.
Sure. Steve, it's way easier to send you $49 and you will find my gift for me, okay?
Sure.
Because
Okay. Well, we can do that.
most people don't have, well, that's just hard. I mean, like we talk about this a lot on the show. For somebody to slow down, okay, I gotta make payroll, I gotta make rent, I gotta go sell something, I gotta. It's really hard for people that are listening, myself included, because I know for myself when I sit and go, okay, I'm gonna do X,
Mhm.
I just start going, and then I'm like the shiny object syndrome king because something shows up,
Yeah.
like I can't even do this out in my backyard because we have a bird feeder and all these birds show up, and before you know it, I'm enamored, lost in that, totally forgot where I was at. Right. So I mean, it's hard. Those are hard words. They're super wise, and I love that. I just want the listener to go, hey, it's, you know what, I'm going to give you a get out of jail free card. It's okay to like be swiped by something, but stay
Mhm.
with it,
Mhm.
because you know what? It's okay to be good at something. And quite frankly, if you want to have impact, you have to be good at something.
Yeah,
I
you,
mean,
you do.
can you, question for you, can you not be good at something and have impact in your mind?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to think, I wasn't really very good at playing music, and we had an impact. People would come and dance and have fun, but I don't think I transformed anybody. When I was singing, some of my songs that I did well, and the people would come and like it, and they would tell me how much they liked it, but I didn't transform anything. Is that an impact? Maybe they may have walked away that day feeling better than they did when they walked in.
Yeah,
But for me, I guess it's that big word impact. Okay, that's an impact. But when we're really, really good at something, when we've mastered something to the point where we can actually affect change, I'm not talking about just, a little bit of a feeling, or I'm talking about changing somebody's trajectory, changing their perspective, changing the nature of their condition, where they actually changes something about them. To
Sure.
get that amount of impact, we got to be good at whatever it is we do.
Gotcha. Yeah. And it's like, again, I'm going to reiterate for the listener, it's okay to say, I'm good at this. It's okay to say, this is my gift,
Mhm.
because otherwise, if you're struggling even at that point, it can pass you by. And like you talked about, you might never find it,
Yeah,
you know? And I think that's a
exactly.
tragedy, right? If a human being exists in this life and doesn't find anything that they can verbally say I'm good at, they aren't able to say my gift is fill in the blank. I mean, it was interesting because I had to unfortunately bury both my parents in the last couple of years. And
Mm,
my mom, she had her everything already laid out what she wanted to say on her gravestone. My
mm.
dad, not so much. He didn't care, right? But it's interesting what for the listeners, what would your gift be on that gravestone? What would your I'm good at be? And if we can't say it yet, then we're not finished. We need there is work to do. So
Yeah.
I greatly appreciate that, Steve. Um, for the listener that, again, let's say they're an entrepreneur business owner, they haven't really dabbled much on the stage, but they really see whether it's something that we talked about today, or maybe it's been in the back of their mind for a while. What are some keys that you share with them to take that idea and turn it into reality?
Yeah. So the first thing I think is that, again, this kind of goes back to the mindset piece, is they got to give themselves permission to put themselves out there. And if it's somebody who has never spoken, somebody who has never had an opportunity to develop that skill, and they're not feeling confident, I recommend they go to something like Toastmasters. It's a very safe environment. That's very inexpensive. They're everywhere in the world. It's easy to get in there, and they will give you opportunities to get in front of a small group and get comfortable. And so I think you got to give yourself permission to step into this little danger zone, but you can do it very safely with an organization like Toastmasters or Dale Carnegie or a number of the others that are out there. And so it starts with that. And then learning the speaking technique and all those things is something that happens down the road. But
Sure.
it's like anything else, I think, Dave, is you got to take that first step. And what you often find, and I'm sure you know this as well as I do, once you take that first step, it's not as scary anymore, because you kind of go, oh, what was I worried about? What was I afraid of? You know,
Right.
and
Yep.
when you're talking about people not acknowledging their gifts. It's such a sad thing, because not only are they depriving themselves of opportunity, but they're depriving the world of the value of their message and the
Yep.
value of their story, and everything that they've learned, all the wisdom that they've accumulated, the ideas that they've curated are now for nothing because they haven't served anybody. And so
Right.
this goes to step number two. The first step is give yourself permission to put yourself out there. And the second step is put yourself in a position of service in your mind. It's all about the mind. Put yourself in a mindset of service. You're here to serve people. How can your story serve? How can your expertise serve? How can your ideas serve? And you can't serve if you're sitting alone, quiet, protecting yourself.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I mean, that's when I first started speaking, or when I first started this podcast, I had these amateur ideas that I was going to just like revolutionize the world, and
Mm,
it was going to be all about me. And it doesn't take a speaker very long to realize that it's really all about the person listening.
mm.
Like you said, if you don't have that mindset of service, then I do think you're going to struggle. Then I do think your ego is going to start showing up, and it's all about me. I love the difference in when you talk to a football player, listen to their interview, when they say, hey, somebody says, hey, how'd you win that game, right? I tell you what, the egotistical is all about me. I lead the league in this. I'm the best, and there's no me, second me. And then there's the other group that's like, man, we couldn't be here without this guy or this girl.
Yeah.
So I love the difference there. Do you run into a lot of both of those in your coaching world? Do you run into people that are on both
Oh
sides
yeah.
of that? I'm just
Oh yeah.
curious.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We talked about this briefly before the show, and
Yeah,
I mean certainly, especially at the the more professional level of speakers. I've been working with professional speakers my whole life, and there a lot of them that I love very, very, very much. But yeah, you're going to find these people who love the sound of their own voice. They love their own photo in the spotlight, and everything is about them. And there are several that come to mind. And they do what they do because they get the accolades, and they get the love from the audience, and the standing ovations, and the spotlight, and the interviews, and all of those great things. I'm not saying is necessarily anything wrong with that, because some of them are
sure.
great speakers, great entertainers, and they provide great value in the moment. But what I find is that for me, I went through some of that when I was in the music business. Even when I started speaking, I went through some of that. But I learned pretty quickly that what makes me feel good is when somebody calls me or emails me 6 months after I've worked with them, and they tell me how their life has changed. I have an ego too. I like the standing ovations. I like the pats on the
Sure.
back. I like all of that, like anybody does. But what drives the ones who are dedicated, the ones who stay in the business, the ones who continually develop themselves, the ones who contribute most to the world, are the ones who are driven by that opportunity to serve. And so, yeah, we get all the different extremes. And there's the extreme on that too. There are some experts who want to bring their expertise to the world, and all they want to do is help people, and they don't even feel like they deserve to be paid. And the problem is, if you're not generating revenue, you are soon in a position where you're not good to anybody. And so we
Sure.
have to find that balance.
That's great. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I really want to go into that driving business. I want to understand, how somebody listening could get on a stage and that converts into business, not just, again, filling their ego or, helping something internally. So we'll be right
Sure.
back. All right, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with Steve and I. We're excited to be talking about such a great opportunity about what impact you're having. And we're talking about it from the speaking perspective. And so Steve's really good at turning an event into business growth and driving business. And I think that that's key here, because there are plenty of people that just want to speak to speak. And if that's you, hey, go crash a wedding or go do something where you can speak where there's not a monetary involvement. But there are tons of opportunities, and I kind of want to unpack those with you now, Steve, where again, a business owner, an entrepreneur, somebody listening, they have a message. We've been able to, they gave themselves permission, like you said. They have a mindset of service. They're practicing on the less fearful stages of Toastmasters and things like that. For those that are ready for that next jump, where we want to not only make the impact, but we do want to drive business, kind
Mhm.
of unpack that for us. What does that look like in your world?
Sure. So let's take that world, and we'll break it up into two broad categories. So the one broad category, this is the stereotypical way to drive business as a speaker, and that is to be paid to speak. So go to conferences, you speak, they pay you, and you go to the next one. And that is it is a valid approach. I've got colleagues all over the world who do that. I did that for many years, but that is a very difficult way to to make a living speaking. It's very, very difficult to break into it. I would say it's about the same success ratio as actors, that actually try and get in there. So it's a really difficult way to do it. And once you're in it, it seems glamorous, but after a while, every airport looks the same, every hotel room looks the same, every conference room looks the same, every taxi looks the same, and it gets old really fast. So there's this other side, though, where you're not being paid to speak. But if you're a coach, if you're a consultant, if you've got courses to sell, if you've got mentorship to sell, products to sell, books to sell, something to sell, if you've
Yeah,
got something to say and something to sell, you can literally make millions in this business. So, and that side, it's speaking to drive business. So you get in front of an audience, live or virtual, you go through a certain process in front of that audience, and the objective is to get the audience to come to you afterwards and say, I'd like to buy your book, or I'd like to talk to you about coaching, or let me download your gift, let me get on your list. And you start attracting people that way. And then ultimately, the goal, of course, is to turn those people into clients for your business. So this is speaking to drive business. And my little motto on that side is, with something to say and something to sell, you can literally make millions through speaking. Not everybody's going to make millions, but most of my clients earn their living through coaching or consulting or selling their books or programs or training or facilitating or something. They have a service that they sell, lawyers, doctors, healers of all different kinds, and they will speak in small audiences, large audiences, on podcasts, on virtual summits, and they get clients that way. So that's where I play, is that's how I build my business. That's how I help my clients build theirs.
sure. Okay. And I love that the distinction, because yeah, I've done both, where you pay to speak and then you get paid and you move on about your day, versus speaking to drive business. So I don't think there's a, right or wrong. It's definitely good to know that distinction. I'm gonna kind of focus, like you said, on the speak to drive business piece, because most people listening, that's where they're headed right now.
Sure.
So from a deeper perspective, so let's just say, again, let's just, build this as we go. There's an entrepreneur listening who happens to belong to an association, might be a local association, might be a national association, and there's an upcoming trade show, and they see this button on the website, call the speaker. They maybe got an email that said, hey, have you ever considered that? So they click to call to do that. They are going to try this based on what we're talking about. Where does because this is where the craft is, right? This
Mhm.
is where
Yeah.
this is now we've gotten over the easy part of clicking the button.
Mhm. Yeah.
Now we got to like really compete with other speakers. We got to compete with AI. We have to really catch the eye of the
Mhm.
event planner. So is that stuff that you get involved with your clients, in helping them going from, that spot they did give themselves permission to now they're crafting a message? Is that where you guys get involved?
Yeah, that's where we get involved, because in the two broad worlds of speaking, being paid to speak or getting, speaking to drive business, the function of the speaker is profoundly different. See, if I'm being paid to speak, my economic buyer, the person to whom I am responsible, is the person who is paying me, right?
Yeah,
And usually they are not the audience. So, I need to fulfill their objectives in front of that audience. But if I'm speaking in order to drive business, my economic buyer are in the audience. And
yeah,
so I need to speak in a way that drives value to them. And so there's a fundamental difference between the function of the speaker in those two worlds. Now, if I'm speaking to drive business, that probably means I'm not being paid by anybody. It may even mean that I have actually paid to be on that stage. And that
sure.
happens quite often, because that's
Yeah,
our promotional cost. So we'll pay to get on the right stage in front of the right audience. But then my job there is to deliver value a very certain way. You see, if I'm being paid to speak, generally my job is to deliver value in terms of solving a problem. I have to teach them something, I have to share something that they can use. But if I want to grow my business, the worst thing I can do is solve their problem from the stage. What I need to do is a whole different approach to take them on a journey where at the end of my talk, what they're saying to themselves is, I need to talk to that guy. right? Where if I'm being paid, they're going to walk away thinking, oh, I got such great ideas. I can't wait to try this. But if they're walking away excited about trying new ideas when I'm trying to get them to hire me, they're not going
Right.
to hire me because they think they have all the solutions. So
Yep.
the messaging, the delivery, the strategy, the approach, everything is profoundly different.
Wow. And this is where the complication comes in, I think, right now, because I'm thinking, Steve, that people listening that maybe even have tried that and they've done the speak to drive business, and I know I'm guilty of that. My thought is just give them some information and then they'll be like, oh my gosh, I need to call this guy.
Right.
Well, if you deliver if you deliver the message incorrectly, like you
Yeah.
just said, you just fixed their problem for them.
Well, that's
Rather
it.
than telling them they need you because they have cancer, you gave them the cancer solution. You gave them the antidote right there. So
Yeah.
it's hard to walk people on that journey without fixing that problem for them,
Well, it
isn't
is
it?
if you don't know how to do it. There is a strategy. So here's here's the response you don't want if you're, now we're talking about this world where you're speaking to drive business. Here's
Yep.
the response you don't want from the audience. And this is what so many speakers love to get. Standing ovation. They'll come up to you and pat you on the back. They'll tell you how great you are. You were the best speaker of the whole conference. I got such value. Thank you so much. You've changed my life. I'm going to, you've changed me forever. And this was the best event I've ever been to because of you and all of that. And we
Yep.
go, oh, then I did a good job. Except
Yep.
that, we walk out with our head held high and our chest all puffed out, but then we look at our bank account and it's less than it was yesterday. So the response we want when we're trying
Yep.
to drive business, if all of that other stuff happens, that's fine. But here's the response we want. We want our audience to be thinking this, huh, I've never thought of it like that before. No wonder I've got this problem. I need to talk to that person. That's the response. So when we craft and deliver our presentation, the purpose is not to solve a problem. The purpose is to reveal a problem. We want to reveal a problem they never even knew they had. And now at the end of the presentation, they go, oh, no wonder I can't be successful. No wonder I can't fix this, or no wonder I can't achieve this outcome. And what I found, Dave, is that clarity around the problem is the value. And oftentimes it is far more value than providing a solution. Because now at least they know what the cause of the problem is. And
Yeah.
so now they need us to go
Yep.
and help them solve the problem.
Well, and I think if we take a step back for a second on this, there's a ton of ways to grow a business. We
Mhm.
all have seen a ton of ways to do that. I just was having lunch with somebody today, and they were talking about a newer business that they're forming, and they were talking about having to like cold call. And
Mhm.
I'm just like, man, that's like, you can do it. That's great if you need to do it or you want to do it. But I tell you what, that's probably one of the lowest return on investments that I've ever seen. And maybe there's ways to do it that I'm not aware of, but I think that that's a pretty low return. I think what we're talking about here is a room full of people that are your ideal customers
Mhm.
because you've done your homework. And again, you're not speaking at a conference that has nothing to do with what you're talking about. You're
Mhm.
dialed in. But I think, man, if there's 50, let's just use 50 as a breakout. There's 50 people in the room that need you,
Mhm.
and they're there, and you're able to craft that message to where, like you said, I need to talk to that guy. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know about you, but like for me, I think that's like the best part of speaking is seeing three or four people deep waiting to come up and say, "Hey, can we talk?" I mean,
Yeah.
that's like the ultimate, right? And I love that. Oh my gosh, this is such a revelation. Don't solve the problem, just reveal it. I
Yeah.
think so many people in their quest to crush their speaking world. I know I have, man, I've solved so many problems from the stage,
Oh
and
yeah.
then
Me
people
too.
walk away. right? They're like, oh my gosh, dude, you just solved world hunger. This is fantastic. Thank you so much, right?
Yeah.
And I feel so good about myself, man. I'm driving to the airport or I'm Ubering or whatever's wherever I am, and I'm just like, huh, he just got me.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. Oh yeah. Listen, I mean, that's the default approach, because it's kind of interesting because I always say to people, you've heard me say this, get into a mindset of service.
Yeah,
But that doesn't mean get into a mindset of solving their problem.
yeah.
Service doesn't always mean solving the problem. Service can mean providing clarity to position them to solve the problem with your help. And that's what we really want to do when we speak to grow the business.
This is so good. This is just speaking to me so well. I don't care about at this point, I don't care about anybody else. I'm just gonna be honest. I don't care about who's listening because this is so helping me. I'm
Good.
hoping for the people that are listening that are contemplating this, speaking as a business driver, that,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, this is like number one, if you can, again, give yourself permission and then put yourself in the mindset of service. And now you're on the right stage because your audience is the right people.
Yeah.
And then you're standing there revealing a problem. You're not solving the problem. If that of those happen, that's got to be like almost a guarantee of success
If
at
you
that.
do it well, I mean, obviously there are never any guarantees, but I'll tell you though, if you're right, if it's the right audience and if you execute this properly, there's a tactical approach to it. Everything has to be done correctly, and if you miss some of it, it could mean the difference between getting clients and not getting clients. So there's a strategy, there's a tactical approach, there's a step by step to it. It takes a lot of brain power, it takes a lot of planning, and it takes some discipline because oftentimes we get in front of an audience, and when you get that energy, the audience is in a good mood, you're in a good mood, there's energy, and now you want to get into entertainment mode and you want to go down this path because it's a cool path. And when you
Yeah.
do those things, you're breaking yourself right out of your own pattern. So it takes a lot of discipline to do all those things, but stay focused on the desired outcome. And so that takes some training to get there as well. But if you do all of these things, then I wouldn't say use the word guaranteed, but it's pretty hard to miss. And the
Sure.
best part about this whole thing is you don't even have to pitch anything. You don't
Yeah.
have to do any kind of a pitch. Now you can, and sometimes we do. We do pitches
Sure.
on webinars and on our summits and these kinds of things. But when we're speaking live, I hardly ever make an offer. The extent of the offer is if you think we can be of value, come and talk to us. We'll set up a meeting and we'll chat. That's the extent of the offer. And people will come and they say with their books or their phones, hey, when can we meet? When can we meet? And then the business is done afterwards. It's not like when we speak and at the end of our speaking everybody runs to the back table and we get a table rush of people wanting to buy our home study courses.
Yeah.
That happens, but that's not how it's really done long term. To
Sure.
do it consistently and actually build a business, the business is done after the talk. And sometimes it's months after the talk. We get people that email us and say, look, I saw you on this stage last year, and now
Yeah.
I'm ready. Now I want to talk to you.
Yeah. Wow. Oh my gosh, that's so powerful. So again, I think driving business, there's so many different ways to do it. This is an out of the box type of thought process. So for you that's listening, it's totally easy to justify this, that this couldn't work in your business. You don't know my business. You don't know my industry. You don't know where I'm at. And I'm not here to say I do. I'm just guessing that the vast majority of those excuses are you stuck in your fear zone, not going into the growth zone and learning zone. If you want to stay there, that's fine. I'm highly suggesting that this is a great way to drive business, number one. But number two, like we said, as we start to land, this is an impact piece.
Mm.
Now you become the subject matter expert in your industry. There's nothing more rewarding for me when someone calls and says, hey, I heard you speak, you crushed it. Can you speak at this group? To
Mhm.
me, there's like something so powerful there because they think that, again, they need you in this scenario. find ways to drive business. This is just such a out of the box. I love this idea. It's so powerful, and it's a way to transform your particular company.
Yeah.
So I want to understand, Steve, where do you fit in? So let's just say somebody's listening and they're like so jazzed, they're excited, their adrenaline's pumping, kind of envision themselves up on a stage, or they've done it before and they've sucked wind and they were like, man, maybe I can do this again with the right help. Where do you come in to help out that particular person?
Right. So for us to be of any real value to that person, here are a few things that should be in place. Number one is they should already be in business. So if it's somebody who's working at a job and thinking they might start a business, we're not who they would invest in.
Yep.
Somebody's in business, they're an entrepreneur, they've got something to sell, and that could be a coaching program, online courses, consulting services, medical services, healing services. So we work with a lot of professionals, lawyers and chiropractors and spiritual healers and all of them, but they've got something to sell. So if they have a business with something to sell that people are actually willing to pay for, and so that's a part of a prerequisite. And if
Sure.
they are driven to use speaking as part of their marketing mix, then we're the ones that will help them to do that. If they don't have a business, we're way too expensive for them. If they don't have a product or service, then we can't help them create one. It's not really
Sure.
what we
Yep.
do. And
Yep.
if they're not willing to invest a little bit in order to make a lot, then we can't help them. So those are sort of the three prerequisites.
Gotcha. Wow, that's great. And if they do meet those prerequisites, Steve, and then you come alongside and then you start to help them elevate. And I'm guessing that this is like these are one of those things I tell my clients as a business coach. I'm like, hey, if I'm not paying for myself like exponentially, then we should probably not do this.
Right.
So I mean, it's hard, but I'm paying you money that I'm going to eventually see in the back. It's kind of like, people don't like putting into their 401k because they kind of lose their
Right.
money and then they got to pick it up 10 years later, or whatever.
Right.
Is that kind of the thought process? I'm going to pay you today, and then in the future, it's going to exponentially pay me back.
Yeah, sure. Because the skills that we teach take time to develop, right? And so, but we'll put it this way. Let's say in the coaching world, I'll just pick a number. Let's say you have a coaching program that you sell for, let's say $10,000. So, our fees, we have programs in that range. And so some of the ways that we work, you can pay for it with a single client or maybe two. Now,
Sure.
if you follow the instructions and you get in front of even the smallest audiences and do what we say, you'd have to mess it up pretty darn bad not to get a single client, right?
Right.
So our fees are up there, but they're not in our world. We're certainly not the most expensive. We're not the
Right.
cheapest, but we charge our fees because people can recoup them fairly quickly if they implement. If they don't
Yeah.
implement, that's kind of on them. Just like you, business coach. If they don't implement what you teach them, there's
Right.
no hope. So if
Right.
they implement, then they can recoup, pretty darn quick. And oftentimes it's a single new client.
Wow, that's fantastic. And again, we're here each week to try to find ways for you to grow. Grow on purpose, don't grow by mistake. This is another great opportunity here. As we land a couple questions, Stephen, I'm gonna let you go. What would your
Sure.
tip of the day be for somebody listening?
Yeah.
Maybe it's something we covered already. Maybe it's something on your heart, but what would your tip of the day be for somebody on this today?
Yeah. Based on who I believe your audience is, I get asked this a lot, and my tip of the day changes depending on who I'm speaking with, right? But today I think what's coming to me is this, your story could change lives. So learn to tell it well.
Wow.
And that's it.
And that's, yeah, I mean, that the weird thing is, I want to ask you one more. Sorry, I lied to you. I got another question
That's
now.
fine. That's okay, man.
The weird thing is like for people, and I know you don't like to get into the story part, so I don't want to get into that part, but I want to help us understand this because this is my struggle is I never got hit by a car and survived.
Mhm.
I have all my limbs. I haven't had this catastrophic event that, oh my gosh, you got to hear Dave. He's survived cancer 37 times,
Yep.
whatever. What do you say to the guy or girl that's listening that doesn't have this like life-changing, earth-shattering story?
Yeah, I'm the same. I don't have a life-changing, earth-shattering, jaw-dropping, story
Hey,
either.
Tara
So,
at 6 years old, I mean, that's
well, I
pretty getting
suppose I
close.
guess I had to dig to find that one because it never even occurred to me that that even had any value till 10 years into my business,
There you go.
But so when I say your story, it doesn't have to be a big catastrophic story. So okay, can I take 60 seconds to explain?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Take your time.
All right. Generally, we see four different kinds of people with four different kinds of stories, and we call them avatars. The first
Yep.
avatar is the expert. The expert's story is the accumulation of all the wisdom that they've accumulated over a career. They have a story based on their expertise. Then there's
Sure.
the thought leader. The thought leader has something creative. It's a new spin, a creative design, a new product or service or idea. Their story is the creative thought process, the creative idea. Then
Okay.
there's the survivor. This is the one with, survived, losing limbs and cancer and that's their story. And then we have the adventurer. We have several clients who have done superhuman things. They've swam oceans and all of these things that people like you and I think they're nuts. So these are the four primary avatars. And there is one more we occasionally see, and I call it the visionary. And that's somebody who is envisioning a major change that they want to make to this world. And so each of those five avatars have a different kind of story. And each of those five avatars have something to say. And I've never met anybody who is in the mindset of service, who has given themselves permission to get out there, who wants to contribute to this world and maybe even make some money. I've never met anybody who doesn't fall into one of those four categories. They just don't know it yet. And so
Sure.
part of our discussion is, where do you fit? What have you got?
Wow. So I wrote down four of them and I missed one. Expert, what's next?
So there's the expert, there's the
Yep.
thought leader,
Thought leader. Okay. And then survivor, adventure,
survivor,
and vision
adventurer, and the visionary.
leader. Wow.
Now you can
Wow.
relate to more than one of those, but if we simplify it, just about everybody we deal with falls somewhere in there.
Wow. That's great. That is so helpful. Thank you so much. Because again, I felt like if I wasn't a survivor, wasn't an adventurer, wasn't a visionary because I don't have this idea that no one's ever thought of, so to speak,
Right.
then all of a sudden this thought leader and expert seem to be so far in the
Mhm.
distance, and I feel like they're all, like you're saying, they're all a level playing field. So that's fantastic. So, Steve, as we land here, if somebody's listening right now and they want to learn more about you, they want to connect with you, they want to ask you some questions, before you share with us your gift for today, what's the best way for people to connect with you?
Yeah, just to go to my website, stevelowell.com. It's all there. My socials are there. That's the easiest way to connect.
Awesome. And that's two L's in Lowell, Lowell,
Yep.
Steve Lowell.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so you were kind enough to give a PDF of your book away. You have three different books. So we're
Yeah.
offering from Stage Fright to Spotlight. That's
Yeah.
a
This was my first book that I wrote in 2011. And it's 99 speaker secrets to breaking the rules and mastering the stage. So it's a fun little book. It's got some great tips in there. Most of it is not common sense. It kind of dispels a lot of common sense. So it's a cool little book. So I'll give that. And I guess I'll give you the link and we'll put that in the show notes, I'm sure. But
yeah.
I also say it. They can go to stevelowell.com/free dash book and it'll be there.
Perfect. That is so cool. Well, thank you so much for unpacking this. If you're listening and you're no longer, if you're not, if impact is still not an issue, then that's on you. We did our darndest today to make sure and find ways to drive business and talk about your impact in your world, in your business, in your industry. So thank you, Steve, so much. I can't wait to get your book. Can't wait to keep learning from you. And please keep shouting this message for the rest of the world to hear.
We sure will. And thank you, brother. I appreciate the opportunity.